Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and welcome to an extra special edition of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm here with my co-host Tony Robinson, where we welcome a guest today who is currently on loan from Accrington Stanley to Torquay United. He has been with Accrington with the Youth Academy for upwards of 10 years now, and we're very excited to talk to him. We just have a lot to get to today, so let's just waste no further ado and welcome to the show, Harry Perritt. Thank you for joining us today, Harry.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to speak about my past at Accrington, obviously the loan now, and sort of mental health issues.
Hi, Harry. It's Tony. I think Philly's been looking at our notes because that's exactly what we wanted to cover today. It's a pleasure. And we, as I say, we thank you for taking your time, and away we go. Phil, are you ready?
I sure am, and let's start off by talking some football. And like we mentioned, you've been with Accrington Stanley all the way since 2011 with the academy. So that's a long history of coming through the ranks to get all the way to the first team. So one of the first things I kind of wanted to ask you about is, how much has Accrington Stanley changed in the past decade? I mean, what you have seen over the past 10 years has to be amazing because, when you came in, I mean, that was about 5 years before Andy Holt was there. So tell us about some of the changes you've witnessed.
Yeah, so I came into Accrington, I think it was 2011, 2012. Obviously, as a kid, and watch all the games, ball boy the games. And what Andy's done is massive for the club. There was, since only a few years ago, there wasn't really a stand. On one of the sides, it was sort of all worn down, and you couldn't really sit anywhere. But what Andy's done is massive for the club. Not only the ground, the facilities outside of match days as well. The new training facilities, the hub, it's got a good 3G, and doing the process of making the pitches around it. But no, I think as a club and as a community, it's progressed massively since Andy's come in.
I think when you talked about the other stand on the other side, Harry, I didn't know if Phil knew this, but the nickname for that was the cow shed. So that should tell you that should tell you the quality of what it was and what Harry's done. I wanted to ask, when we talk about your time with Stanley coming up through the ranks, and in July of this year you signed a 2-year contract with Stanley after starting in 2011, 2012, and then you signed a 2-year contract. How did that make you feel when you signed?
No, it meant the world to me. Obviously, I got my scholarship, which was the first sort of major contract that I signed with Accrington, and at the time that was a turning point in my life. Ever since, it's sort of been growing towards that long-term contract. I know it was massive for me. Obviously, I've had my ups and downs with injuries and whatnot. I think to keep everything going, and to stay in the run of things whilst being injured and then to get the contract at the end of it was massive for me. Give me a massive boost in confidence. Obviously, I'll be here for another 2 years and hopefully many more.
And then you made your debut in the EFL Trophy match against Lincoln. That was on the 12th of January of this year. What was that like to finally break through and get onto the pitch wearing that Accrington red?
Yeah, it was massive for me. It was something that I've always dreamed of. It was coming off the back of a hard time, which we'll speak about soon. But I think just getting that first game out of the way was one of the biggest achievements in my life so far. And it'd be a memory that I'll never, ever forget.
Yeah, and also I think it was within a couple of months, March of that same year, you made your league debut as a sub, coming on in the win over Wigan. That has to be special because it's in the league play. It'd be a little different than the League Cup, but it must have been. Was it extra special to make that debut?
Yeah, I think the league debut meant a lot more to me because obviously I've watched the first team lads play since I was a kid. I've always sort of dreamt of that league debut. It was a shame it wasn't in front of the fans and my family couldn't be there, but it was something that was one of my biggest goals in life and people always dream of. And I think it's just a massive achievement for me and also my family as well.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about real quick is you mentioned that you've watched Accrington since you were a kid, even since, before 2011. What was it that gravitated you to Accrington as opposed to any of the other clubs in the area?
Well, not many people know, but my brother was in the academy 2 years above me. So he went through the ranks with sort of Ross Sykes, Regan, up until the youth team. So originally I was at my Sunday League team when my brother got scouted by Accrington, and it sort of went from there. I went down for a trial because obviously my brothers, we were both only young. So, but from what my dad and my family had said, like obviously everyone dreams of being an academy player, and I think Accrington was very good to my brother in the time that he was there, and I think that just sort of helped me a lot to get into academy football, which I've never really mentioned before, but without my brother sort of getting into academy football at Accrington, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah, and I was just thinking while you were talking about that, just the other night, the youth team had a nice win over Wigan in the first round of the Youth Cup. You must feel something special for those lads that are in that position that you were a few years ago, and you must be pleased for them.
Yeah, no, my youth days are some of the best memories I've had in football and in life, especially the Youth Cup, because we did quite well when I was second year, and there was a game against Leeds. I think it was the third round, and so if we won that, we would have played Liverpool away, and it went into extra time, similar to the other night. And now when we won that was probably the best game of football I've been involved in. I know that the memories, you don't really realise it at the time, but the memories you get from the youth team are something that you'll never forget, and the people you'll never forget.
Yeah, and I think those lads the other night will have a really fun memory, and it could be the start of something special for a lot of those players. The next segment we want to move on to, Harry, and we'll talk about your move to Torquay after this segment. And what the future holds, but we wanted to sort of touch base on the mental health and wellness matter. That I know it's an important topic, and we want to help get that message out. I was personally struck by your emotion on that October 8th video when you started talking about it, and it really meant a lot to you. And that was the first time you had apparently talked about that. How hard was that doing that interview?
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever spoken to anyone about it, really. But I think with the encouragement of likes of Tom Scully, who did it with me on the day, and he's also done it in the past at Norwich. I spoke to him before, and he said it was the best thing that he'd ever done. But I think on the day it was hard. Obviously, in the video you can see get a bit emotional about it. I think it was massive for me to do. Obviously, very proud of myself that I've done it. It took a lot of thinking, and there was a lot of thought behind it, whether I should do it, whether I shouldn't. But I think once I've done it now, I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and I think every time it just gets easier and easier.
And I mean, you mentioned a lot of people have reached out to you, and did you think you would have that big of an impact when you released that, or did you think it was just something you wanted to share, but now all of a sudden you're getting some feedback?
No, I think originally it was for myself more than anyone, to sort of show everyone that no matter who you are, no matter how much you're smiling, things can always go wrong, and you never know what's going on behind closed doors. But no, the feedback was incredible. So many messages from people I've never met before, never seen before, saying how much it inspired them. Families saying that they've showed the kids. Even people in public have come up to me. Even down here, I've had one or two people come up to me saying that they've seen the video, which was crazy to me. But I think it's definitely something that helped me massively, and it's also helped a lot of people that you'd never have thought it would have helped.
Yeah, I think if we sort of go back a bit from that video, because you talked about it in the video, is in 2009, you broke your arm and you worked hard to get back. Were you experiencing issues at that time, or did you know you were experiencing issues? How were you dealing with that after you broke your arm?
After I broke my arm, it was sort of my first major injury, so I didn't think much of it at the time. Obviously, it was hard not playing football, and then obviously getting back to it was a big thing for me as well. But I think the second time round, when I broke my ankle, was when it sort of really kicked in. The first time I sort of, obviously it was one of my first, so I sort of just got on with it, got back into training, and then went from there. But then the second time, it really hit me, because it was the second time I'd done it. I felt like I was doing it all over again. I felt like I was getting nowhere. So no, I think the second time was a lot harder.
Yeah, because it was did you say it was on like almost to the day, or on the day when you had that in 2020 when you broke your ankle? Was around the same time as you a year later, was it?
Yeah, it was 12 months and a day later when I broke my ankle. So I think there was a bit of a curse on that week. But now this year, touch wood, nothing's gone on in August.
Well, you, as I said, you broke your ankle, and then you're just edging towards the first team. Then you had your grandmother pass away. Is that when did things sort of or did they spiral then at that point where they sort of, is that when you felt things were really piling up on you?
Yeah, I thought, because it was just as I was coming back into training, and I sort of thought everything was looking up. And then when I heard the news, everything sort of felt like it was crashing back down again. And that's when I sort of realised that I wasn't okay. In those few months that I was out, just felt like everything was, there was one thing after another, and there was just a sort of breaking point.
Yeah, because I think people, and you touched on this, people deal with it in different ways, and for yourself, it was you almost keeping it to yourself, and then how did you finally deal with it? Then after all this time, were able to speak out to it, or how did you deal with that?
At the time, I was just sort of I was just keeping myself busy, going to the gym, sort of just keeping myself with people. Cause I know the worst times were when I was at home alone, when my mind sort of started to race and things would just get on top of me. But but no, over the summer, obviously everything sort of got back to normal. As we went on holiday, that was a massive change for me. Just sort of get that time away, where there's nothing to worry about in the off season. And then obviously looking forward to pre-season as well, which took my mind off everything massively, and I felt like I really, really found my true self.
So how important is it to talk to people, friends, family, mental health professionals? How important is that? Just get that out there to people.
Yeah, massively important. Honestly, I couldn't stress enough how important it is. I think who knows what would have happened if I'd never spoke to the camera about it. I think obviously people deal with it in their own way. Maybe my way wasn't the best way of doing it. But speaking out is the best thing I've probably ever done. It influences other people to speak about it, and you also get so many, because I was worried about the negativity of it. Maybe people think I'm sort of over exaggerating about it, sort of just thoughts like that. But the amount of positive messages and love that I received off that video, like, helped me so much. It's helped a lot of people so much, and I think it's one of the most positive things is getting yourself.
I think what you said there is a big thing. I think that, so many people are just concerned about what the response is going to be, and the fact that you're getting such positive response, it's really an incredible thing.
Yeah, definitely. That was the main worry for me, was because I didn't want anyone seeing me differently or worrying about me. And after speaking, everything's still the same, but people sort of appreciate everything more. I know I definitely do appreciate my friends more, my family more. But no, I think if I was to speak to someone now who's currently going through what I went through, I'd encourage them with all my heart to speak out about it.
I think Harry, that's the big step, isn't it? Is making that decision to speak out. And I don't know if Phil, I've related this story before, but well, what Irish talked about really at home, this is something I've probably never shared before. But when I was in my mid-50s, I was taken up to a room from work and told that I was being let go. And I had 30 seconds to sort of get my head around that. And within the week, I was sent home after 35 years. And the problem I had is that people, I didn't talk about anything. It was people were calling me, and where Harry said he was able to reach out, I had people reaching out to me, which made me sort of go into my shell. And I didn't want to talk to people because I was getting people telling me it's going to get better, and I didn't want that at that time. So we talk about different aspects of mental illness and the things that can happen. I just want to use that as an example that sometimes you've got to be in your own frame of mind, being ready when to talk to people. And I think that's the message I want to get across. And your story really touched me, Harry, and I'm sorry for that.
Oh, no, Tony, that's, it's like you said, I mean, for everybody, it's difficult to know how people are going to respond and react. And I think that's, like you said, you don't want just a bunch of people calling up and telling you, things are going to get better, because they don't know, they're not in your shoes. And I think that makes things difficult.
Well, Harry, I don't know what you think, but it's a bit opposite of what you went through, but it's still an issue, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. No, I also appreciate what you're saying, because it does take a lot to speak freely about it. So you should be sort of proud of where you come from in that aspect. But no, definitely, I think everyone suffers differently. I didn't want my family to worry about me, my friends to worry about me, because I feel too proud to sort of let people know. But I think at the end of the day, once you speak about it, everything sort of just gets easier.
Yeah, I was providing counseling, but it was nothing to do with the mental aspect of it. It was more to do with, well, how to get another job. But in that respect, do you think the FL or the Football Players Association, are they helpful in this area? Could they do more?
No, I think there's definitely resources out there. Because I know Tom, I've mentioned, he went to the EFL or is the PFA, one of the two. Yep. And he said they helped him massively with sort of counselling and giving him resources to help him. I just chose not to, because that's just the person I am. But no, there's definitely I've been sent links to everything through the club, through the PFA, through the EFL. But no, there's definitely a lot of stuff out there that will help young players and also older players, because obviously it happens to everyone.
It's a very difficult conversation to have, and we definitely appreciate that you've taken the time to talk about this with us today, Harry. But what we want to do now is lighten the mood a little bit after such a difficult conversation. Yeah. And to be able to do that, luckily we have what Tony invented about a year and a half ago that has now become the most popular segment on our show, where it started off as just some kind of fun North England versus South England questions. Now we've got some music and movies, and well, I'll just turn it over to Tony for the now world famous rapid fire.
Thank you, Phil, as always. This is a little different because we've never had somebody from the north go back down to the south to. So we're going to try and work in a couple of questions that will hopefully be relevant. But just some lighthearted ones, Harry. Do you like mushy or garden peas?
Garden peas.
Red or brown sauce on your bacon sandwich?
None, but I'd probably go red.
If you were to have a full English, would you have black pudding with it?
No.
No, okay. Do you have a favorite brand or musician?
Say musician or band with Coldplay.
I've heard it, Phil. I heard of them.
Yeah, Coldplay. I like them.
Yeah. Apparently, they just did a concert in the new arena in Seattle just a few days ago. So
release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. This is around some of the players. Who has the best sense of humor of the players?
Torquay or Accrington?
Yeah, at Accrington. Yeah, I'll give you Accrington because
Accrington.
Yeah.
Probably Harry Perritt.
He's quite a character since he's come over. Yeah. And I know
he's the main character.
Yeah. And he you can tell in his interviews as well. I know, like when you go to the matches, everybody wears the sort of the same clothing. But is there anybody in the team that you think is really a poor dresser or needs some fashion tips?
I hate to throw the skip under the bus, but I go Seamus Keneally.
Okay, well, we'll have to ask Seamus on that one, what he likes to wear to the match. What's your favorite takeaway, Harry?
Ooh, Indian, I'd say.
I don't think that's a new answer. Have we had that one before, Tony?
Yeah, I think we've had Indian before. Yeah, because you can up and around Accrington, you can get some really good Indian. So yeah, I think that's a good answer, Harry.
Been on a streak of Chinese lately.
Yeah. Have you since you've been down there? Have you had a Cornish pasty?
I haven't. No, I've been cooking for myself.
I got to ask you about that. So down there, how popular is chicken down there? My understanding from what I've read is I guess that basically almost all of the chickens that are eaten originated from that part of England. It's like the Cornish breed of chickens. So there's like chickens everywhere down there.
There's a lot. I have noticed it actually. There's a lot of in the shops. There's more chicken than there is sort of steak or anything like that. There's literally a massive selection of chicken.
the chicken capital of the world.
One other question that I wanted to sort of ask too is there anybody that you could? I know this is putting you on the spot, but is there anybody that you would like to have dinner with a hero of yours that you'd like to sit down and learn from, or just sit and spend some time with?
One person I've always looked to would be Steven Gerrard.
Yeah,
I think he'd just be, obviously his football intelligence and his football experience would be so good to listen to. So I've watched the documentaries and whatnot, but I think in person would be such a good company.
The one too I was going to ask Phil is to Harry. Have you watched Till Sunderland Till I Die or The Last Dance? If so, which one's better?
The Last Dance. 100%.
Everybody says that, Phil. Everybody says that.
Well, I mean, they're two really different stories. I mean, if you just want to see a great team, and the inner workings of a great team, then you can't go wrong with The Last Dance. For Sunderland Till I Die, I think it's just unique because you don't really get to see the innermost dysfunction of a club like that very often. But I think it's just one of those things where Sunderland Till I Die, you can kind of watch it once and you're like, man, I really feel bad for them, and hope they can turn things around. Or the Last Dance, that's what you can watch over and over and just think back to remember all those great games, even if they were beaten up on my team.
Well, I think it's probably a show that's really opened up the NBA probably to a lot more bigger audience than it already is.
Yeah, but I've never been involved with NBA or watched NBA. But I know of Michael Jordan, definitely, and he was sort of the main attraction that made me watch it. But no, I've watched Sunderland Till I Die. I think it gives you the background of what actually goes on behind the scenes. Because everyone sort of sees the money and the cars and whatnot, but no one sees the underlying problems at a club.
Yeah, and I think when we interviewed Cameron Burgess, Phil, remember he knew quite a bit about the NBA. In fact, he was a Brooklyn Nets fan.
Yeah, that's right. I think that when they talked about how the Bulls made that trip over to France before the Olympics in the 90s, I think that's really when basketball kind of took off in Europe. And Michael Jordan, he was the face behind all of that, and he just really has done so much for that sport globally. It's just I remember when I was a kid, just about every player that was in the NBA came from the United States. Now you have guys from Greece and all over Eastern Europe, and players coming from South America, and it really is becoming a second football, if you will, in terms of a global game.
if you don't mind, what we'd like to do now is move on to, if we could, to the move to Torquay, because it was right after when you made your announcement or you talked about the mental issues. That loan came up pretty quickly after that, didn't it?
Yeah, so I only found out a couple of days before I actually came down. So it was very, very sudden. I don't think my mum was too pleased I was leaving her so soon. But I think it's definitely something that I've needed to do for a while. No matter how far away it is, I think it's definitely a positive direction for my career.
I mean, it is quite a distance, isn't it? You couldn't really get much further away from Accrington than Torquay.
No. Good 5-hour drive.
Yeah, and it's not a straightforward drive. I know when I was a kid, used to go down to Cornwall, St. Ives, and all that way, and it wasn't a good drive back in those days.
Weather's got to be a little better, though, right?
Yeah, the weather's much better here. It's raining now as we're speaking, but it has been much better.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if it's like Phoenix to Toronto, Phil, but it's probably better on the south coast.
Probably more like Toronto to like, I don't know, the middle of Iowa.
Yeah, no offense to middle of Iowa. Is this something that the team initiated, Harry, that they wanted to you to do for your career?
Well, yeah. Originally, I sort of wanted to play men's football because I was playing 23s. I just wanted that sort of step up into men's league football. So I think the difference between 23s football and men's football is massive. And I'd sort of do whatever it takes in order to get me closer towards playing regular in the Accrington team.
Because your first match, and congratulations on the win, because your first match, I believe it was a 2-0 win, correct? For the Gulls.
Yeah.
You got good reviews too, with a lot of positive comments. I read that about you coming to the club and wishing you well, and that's got to make you feel welcome to when you go to so far away to a club.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a massive part of me moving down here was the fans, because I've heard nothing but good things about them, and then obviously they've showed me a lot of love on social media, and then when I got to the game Saturday, I felt like they were all on my side, which was something obviously the Accrington fans are great. They give me nothing but positivity, but playing in front of them and sort of putting on a show on Saturday on my debut was massive to me.
That's one thing with Accrington fans is we'll support you wherever you go. And I noticed that other Accrington fans, if a player leaves and goes to another club, we'll continue following and want to see success along the way.
Yeah, of course. I've had a lot of messages from Accrington fans saying well done for the game on Saturday.
When with Torquay, I mean they're in the National League, and when you look at the National League, there's some big clubs in the National League that obviously have played in league football for many years, and Notts County being one, and Southend, Wrexham, to name a few. How would you rate the quality of football in that league, Harry?
I think it's a really good quality. I was expecting, obviously, because as I'm dropping leagues, I was expecting the standard to drop with it. But it's really not. I've seen some lads here are technically very good. So I think in the league especially, there's a lot of big teams and a lot of ex-league players. People who've played in League One, people who've played in League Two. So I think the standard is very similar. Obviously, the sharpness and whatnot is obviously better. But no, it's very, very similar.
That's what I've heard from a lot of folks is that the style of play, or I guess the quality of play in the National League and League Two, League One, it's really not a whole lot of difference on the skill level. From what I've heard, is the biggest difference is that as you go up the league, that the quality of the strikers gets better, and that when you go down to the National League and League Two, that there's more teams that are kind of playing the long ball and less teams working up from the back. But other than that, for the 10 guys that are on the pitch, the skill level is pretty equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. I think as you go up in the league, it gets more technical. A lot of on the ground football. Whereas when you drop league, it's very much get up, counter attack, sort of stuff like
that. With Torquay, what formation did they use, and are you playing a similar role than you would at Accrington, or have they got you in a different position? Like, what's your setup with Torquay?
Yeah, so we're playing a 3-4-3. I think, at the minute. So we're playing very attacking and pressing from the front. It's very similar to Accrington because we like to press from the front, and I think it works well here as well. Obviously, as people saw Saturday, because I think the formation was changed slightly, so it's a bit more attacking. But no, I think I'm playing right centre half in a back three at the minute. So it gives me license to play into the strikers, so they can run onto it more.
And you've got you're there till January, so you're going to get some really, quite a few games to gain some experience, and I suppose just as you say, the move away from home and getting into some new teammates. Is that a positive from a mental health aspect to, does it give you a lift?
Yeah, I think it's a massive positive for me. Obviously, I've been living at home all my life, and now I've got that license to sort of do things by myself. Obviously, cook home meals, go food shopping and stuff like that. So I think, as well as progressing in my sort of football career, it's also turning me into a man. Because I've always been sort of helped out by mum and dad and whatnot. I think it gives me that individuality.
Yeah.
To sort of express myself and also grow off of it.
Well, I know we've interviewed players that have come into Accrington on loans, and we've never done somebody going the other way because, and this what makes it interesting is the experience and what you've gone through and what you're going through, and the fact that we're intrigued on how this is going to impact and further your career. So we're thrilled that you're taking time for us to do that and the positives that are coming out of it. But we wish you well, and we hope you get lots and lots of playing time in Torquay.
No, I appreciate it. I think it's massive for me, especially to play men's football and get Torquay back into the playoffs like last year.
And just one last question that I have, and it's the last question we had on the list here, was about your future aspirations. What are the future aspirations? Now, I did want to mention that your full name is Harrison, not Harold. So what are the future aspirations for Harrison?
I think, obviously, it's everyone's dream to play in the Premier League. But I've set goals for myself for the next few years and however long after. Always wanted to play in the Championship. I think that's sort of where I could be if I carry on doing what I'm doing now. And obviously the Premier League is the dream goal, and obviously I'm eligible for Scotland International, so that's another goal of mine that I want to tick off the box.
Yeah, and I think I just say that's some great goals to have, because one never knows, because Accrington is only one step away from the championship, and I think everybody would love for you, Harry, to be a part of that. So we wish you all the best in Torquay, and really we want to see you back in Accrington and challenging and playing in the first team. So again, I personally, I want to thank you for what you did and help me talk about it too. And that's been it's just been a huge thing what you've done, Harry. And I just say thanks for joining us today. It's been a real privilege to talk to you, honestly.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks for having me. I think obviously, like yourself, it's helped you to sort of speak out about past experiences, and the more I'm speaking about it, the more it's helping other people. So I think I've loved being on here.
Yeah, been great.
Well, I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to say that we're going to look forward to seeing you play for Accrington and in the championship, because I think Accrington is going to get it promoted. You're going to be a big part of that coming back to the first team, and we wish you a long future with continued success, whether it be Accrington or anywhere else. We want to see you reach all of your dreams and hopefully get on that Scotland international team as well. We always like to finish up with our On Stanley On. So if everybody's ready, you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. On Stanley On.
Thanks, Harry. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Harry. Have a great one.
Cheers.